So Marie Troiari, tell us about your journey back to the States.
Good morning. So I'm in New York right now, but I've been here for like 3 weeks now. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but Amsterdam was really nice while it was still happening. um, and I met a lot of great people, so I still have those connections. And I'm going to be interning with the State Department this summer, obviously online, but I'm still happy to have that opportunity regardless.
Sounds great.
You know what you're going to be doing yet?
I'm going to be working with some diplomats and kind of figuring out the different career paths I could take. And I'm going to be taking a class on foreign policy and a class on economics.
Okay, let me know when you get settled in, because I have lots of contacts at the State Department.
I definitely will. Thank you so much. I hope everyone's doing well.
There's Edward. Morning, Edward.
Morning, guys.
You look like a disc jockey somehow. I'm waiting for the music to come.
All right, why don't we get started? Pete, do you want to call us to order?
Yes, please. If you would, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 board members here. Am I correct? Oh, I forgot.
Yeah. I think we're one shy of a quorum at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's get started anyhow.
Well, we're not reviewing minutes, so we're not taking any votes, I don't think, on this call.
Okay. Well, do you want to launch into the treasurer's report, Steve?
Yeah, Edward, do you want me to describe it and then you can jump in?
Yeah.
And if Naheem comes on, he can take over. So twofold things to talk about. One is the current state of financial affairs, and two is the future and next year's budget. And the big picture on the budget is that we aim to approve next year's budget in May. We are required to do it by June 30th. We don't know what the future holds. There's a lot of uncertainty, but we have a pretty good idea at this point from the governor of where things stand. So we actually, on the committee, we thought, we're pretty prepared right now, but we want to give it the month as new data comes in from the state. And at the same time, we don't want to wait till June because that's cutting it very close to the deadline. And if we don't have a quorum, things like that. So first, this year's report, I'm going to share my screen so that people can see the numbers, even though you probably can't read them. These are tiny. Essentially.
Good.
Oh, that's the wrong screen. Sorry. That should be the one. No, still not working. Sorry. Try that one. No. All right, let me move this over. Here we go. You see that? Bunch of numbers?
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, the financial crisis, the coronavirus crisis has not led to a complete financial crisis for our school because per pupil payments are still coming in. The next payment, the last one of the fiscal year, is due tomorrow, and we understand it will be completed on time by the city. We have spent a lot of money on Chromebooks and things like that, and so those aren't reflected here. They just take away from our bottom line. Those are capital expenses that we'll continue to maintain and keep and reclaim as we, give them out to kids to borrow. So we had a very robust projected surplus, and we still have a robust projected surplus because our budget was very conservative and the assumptions all came in much more favorable than we expected in our budgeting. So we expect to end the year with a nice surplus. And this is In addition, we will also be receiving an additional state budgeted payment of at least $100,000 from last year's state. Those are going out of the budget in the future now. So that's the last year of this payment. We're basically going to apply that money towards expenses that are coming up unexpected due to the remote learning. A question we've discussed but don't have a lot of detail about right now because it's still taking shape is what is the school not spending because we're not at school versus what are we spending because we're doing remote learning. Right now, that appears to be somewhat of a wash, except for the Chromebooks. So the school for the current fiscal year is in a healthy fiscal position. And Edward, did you want to add anything? Or anybody else want to add anything?
How many of the Chromebooks were we able to raise money to pay for them?
Why don't we get to that during a little later on? We can bring in Josh for fundraising.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I want to just talk about the expenses and budgeting stuff right now.
I don't have anything to add right now, Steve.
Okay, so let's talk about the draft budget for next year as well as the considerations that the committee has looked at. It's our surplus. So next year's budget, the big thing is the assumptions. So we are adding 10 more students in total to what we expect, even though we're adding a whole fifth grade class. This is complicated because of our enrollment shifts based on rooms in the building and co-teaching versus solo teaching. We didn't do anything differently with our enrollment expectations because of the virus. That's something we're watching closely. And the initial signs are that we are feeling good about enrollment for next year, but that is very preliminary. We'll talk a little bit more about it later when we get to the dashboard. We did change our special education numbers, going from 45 to 60 high-cost kids. That's still well under our actual numbers we've had, which have been in the 80s the last few years. So we think 60 is a very safe floor and allows the budget to work. So you can see that there's a $2,000 projected surplus. Now this year we projected a $200,000 surplus and wound up with $700,000 right now. So we believe that this 2,000 is very conservative. Now I want to talk about next year's assumptions. I won't go into all this in detail, but I've mentioned the key assumptions. There is some staffing shifts that are happening. The big things are about salaries and benefits, as well as the risk areas. So I want to just talk about those and what the committee discussion has been. On salaries, we are going forward with our normal 3.5% salary increase for all returning staff. A lot of charters we're hearing are not doing that. They're freezing out of an abundance of caution or because they are hearing, or they know like we do, that the per pupil funding will now be flat for next year and their budgets don't work with increasing salaries. We know of schools also that are cutting positions and that are not adding new positions that they had otherwise planned for. So we're not doing any of those things. And you can see what that's done. That's done two things to our budget. One is it's brought the margin down very close to zero in terms of what we expect as a surplus. And two is it's caused us to want to rein in spending in other areas. So that's happening in the budget in areas that I didn't highlight, but next year's budget, we're projecting to spend less on things like office supplies, instructional materials, food and hospitality. We've always had budgets for these areas, but we haven't done, haven't had tight controls over them and haven't worried about it because we want to take care of the needs of the school, but we're going to have to do better advanced planning to make sure we're watching every penny now in the coming year. The big thing about the salary increase is what we heard from the committees and what the school management team believes as well is the staff members are the lifeblood of the instructional program. So if we don't take care of the staff members, then we're preventing the school from flourishing. So we'll do everything we can to maintain those increases. We also have a lot of staff members who are going through a lot right now, and we want people to be buoyed by the support they will get from that guaranteed income due to our planning. I want to talk about the risk areas next, and then take any questions and comments, and anybody else who wants to add something. And also what's next. So with regard to enrollment, we don't know what's going to happen across the city. Some people are moving out of the city. We don't know if that's a widespread phenomenon. We don't know how long this is going to go on and how it's going to affect parents deciding to take their kids out of one school into another school. Kindergarten is the big focus, a big entry point. Kids need a kindergarten to go to, so it makes sense that enrollment should continue. And we're going to be continuing with an aggressive recruitment and communication approach. We'll talk about that a little later as well with the dashboard. On the revenue side, the governor has warned about catastrophic cuts because the state budget is a complete mess due to the lack of tax receipts right now. There were 3 periods that the governor warned there could be possible spending cuts, and he's used, either the legislature used the budgetary process or he used an executive order, I don't remember which, to set up these 3 periods. And I just want to highlight these because they are what we're watching carefully. Today is the end of the first period. So what the executive office is going to do is look at where the state budget stands right now and where the projections stand and make possible adjustments to next year's budget, which could include a cut in our per pupil allocation. They'll do that again. And the signs are that no change is happening right now, but that may change. The next period starts tomorrow and goes through June 30th. And then the last period is the second half of the year. So July 1st to December 31st. So any of these checkpoints, we could see the per pupil dip. And if that happens, we have to go into some kind of austerity budgeting, or we have to go into our reserve fund and do deficit budgeting, which we did for a couple of years in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. We had 5 years of flat per pupil, and we were able to do it without really upending the ship of the school by doing the same thing we're doing now, being careful, being conservative, not over-assuming, tightening spending in certain areas, looking at everything we spend and making sure we were doing it responsibly. And we were able to continue staff increases even during that time, 5 years of 0 increase. So right now we're facing 1 year and possibly worse. So the committee is watching this carefully. Anyone can, and we'll make sure this is available for our staff on our data glance. Anybody can click on the governor's full plan to see what these numbers mean, or what these dates mean. What we're hearing from our state colleagues in the education department, at our authorizer, and in the associations is that the governor is going to do everything he can not to cut schools. And these threats to cut schools are aimed at the federal government because what the state, like states around the country and other municipalities, is relying on is the federal government to do some support for this this tremendous loss in revenue. So if the state were to reopen and it would be successful and healthy, and businesses were contributing their tax money and so forth, then that would be great. And that would forestall any problems, but we don't think that's going to happen, at least not right away. So the governor is leaning on the feds to do some kind of a bailout for the state. So all that said, our budget is, like every organization in the country right now, is tenuous and uncertain, but it's about, to me, it seems as solid and as careful and conservative as it could be. So are there any comments, any questions about anything I've said?
Edward?
I just wanted to add that we were able to do the 3.5% salary increase because of our past conservative budgeting, and a lot of schools won't be able to do that. So that does give us a competitive advantage. But at the same time, because we do think the budget's in flux, we do expect to tell staff, like, we plan to do the salary increase, but we're also going to caveat that if something happens with the state, at the state legislature, or something catastrophic happens, this might change. And hopefully that won't be the case. But that's our thoughts right now, but there's a lot of uncertainty right now.
Yeah, what I told the staff at our staff meeting on Tuesday was that no school, no organization could make an absolute promise about anything right now in terms of staff increases. But our plan is this 3.5% increase, and we're going to go forward with that plan until we hear otherwise.
Okay.
Anybody else got a hand to raise?
I think we can go on, Steve.
Okay. What have we got next? So just a reminder, we will work over this budget some more at the next committee meeting and over the next few weeks. And at the next board meeting, we aim to vote for a vote on the budget for next year. Okay, next is the dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. Hopefully I can.
I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is Voika. You couldn't
Okay,
hear
go
me
ahead.
when I asked my question. What is the increase in salary? What does that translate to in actual dollars?
Well, it's supposed to track inflation, overall over time. And if things go way up, it stays stable. And if things don't go way up, then it's a little higher. 3.5% on someone making $50,000 is, what would that be? Less than 2,000, like 1,750. If you're making $100,000, it would be 3,500 increase. So for every $100, it would be $3.50.
Voika, were you asking that as an individual question or as a what does it cost in
Oh, do you mean the impact in the budget overall?
Yeah.
Right. I want to
Oh, I
see what the total would be for the budget.
Yeah, you know what? We actually didn't calculate that. It's a good point. But I can give you the back of the envelope estimate. Our personnel expense next year is $6.7 million.
Mm-hmm.
So do the quick math. It would be $250,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the dashboard. So actually, there's going to be two things on the screen here, but I want to not talk about the second one just yet. The dashboard has the enrollment, and that's really it. This is another part of the meeting down here. So to explain how this works, the dashboard shifts around a little bit based on the time of year. And right now we're only looking at next year's enrollment. I will just point out that enrollment hasn't changed since the coronavirus crisis. No one's left the school or enrolled for the current year. That is something that's come up at other schools, so it's a question, but hasn't been of any focus for us. So for next year, we have run our lottery. We are going through the stages of admission for students. The steps are described in the first bullet point here. They have to say yes, they have to complete forms, and then purchase a uniform starter pack. If they do all those things, we know that they're coming. One of the central problems that every school faces with enrollment that was much less of an issue when there were many fewer charter schools 15 years ago is that people will have the freedom to say yes to multiple schools and then not actually show up because they're only going to pick one. And there's no mechanism by which people are compelled to say, I choose this school versus I choose that school. They can do this. It's legal. It's kind of a loophole, and whoever's governing these things, whether it's at the state level or at the city level, there is no centralized way of telling if someone's in more than one place. And I will just, as an aside, say that Newark enacted a policy where they streamlined admissions to charters and district schools across the city a few years ago. It was called for one reason was to avoid this problem of having to kind of figure out the system and do game theory. It was met with a lot of opposition because any change is hard, and I'm not sure if they've kept it, but it was politically unpopular. But it was necessary because they were trying to figure out How do we know who's going where in the fall? There's just so many variables. So we play that that model out throughout the spring and throughout the summer, trying to figure out who's really coming, who's not really coming. And it's disheartening when you're working with a family and they seem really excited and they fill all the forms out and they say, we're coming, and then it's first day of school and they don't come. So we've worked hard to try to build relationships with our new families who are enrolling to make sure that they feel attached to the school and tethered. We're working on new ways to do that. But at this stage, a lot of the work is about data analysis so we can understand the patterns of what families are doing and not doing. So I'll just explain the columns in the chart and take any questions and just give you a snapshot of where we stand right now. The first one is this projected enrollment, and you see these are decimals. So every child is not 100% sure of enrolling right now. So this is an estimate of how certain we are, you, Johnny Smith, will enroll in the fall based on whether you've said yes, whether you've filled out the forms, whether you've purchased a uniform. If someone buys the uniform starter pack and it is deeply discounted, then we're 90% sure they're coming because people generally don't take that step unless they're serious. We have not started selling uniforms yet, I don't think. We're about to. Alejandro, I think you're on the call. If you want to pipe in and give us a date of when that's going to start, you can go ahead and interrupt me.
They will go on sale as early as today.
As early as today. Okay. There you go. So we hope to see the numbers increase. It's important to know that, you know, if you look at the chart, we have 13 projected first grade vacancies, but 26 kids in the waiting list. We're not adding those kids right now because when the uniforms go on sale, we expect the numbers to increase. If every kid who's in the pipeline here enrolled in this, that's in this projected enrollment column, then we would be oversubscribed. So we are over enrolling on purpose because we know that many of the kids won't show up. But we'll tabulate or we'll calibrate how many kids to let in off the waiting list based on what we see the actions are of the families. Maximum size, that is our target enrollment for the grade, and then projected vacancies is just the maximum size minus the projected enrollment. And then a comparison to last year where we were at this time. So in kindergarten, it's our big focus because that's the big entry point and because that's where we've had issues with filling all the seats at the start of the year in the past couple of years. That's not always been true. It's been true in the last couple of years, and we do think it's avoidable. We think we can fill all the seats. We had 27 vacancies at this point last year, and through July, we were fighting to get it down to the low 20s. Right now, we're at 18, and we think that number will improve with the sale of uniforms. So each week, we'll be updating the executive committee with the numbers. A last factor to point out is the expected attrition per grade. So we will start tomorrow. We'll be starting the process of surveying all of our families with their intent to return. Last year was the most comprehensive year for us to get data and to find out who's coming and who's not coming. So this year we expect to do even better with getting 100% of our kids getting accurate information. Of course, you never know, things change over the summer, but we want to keep close contact because that also impacts what we do off the waiting list. What you're looking at here in terms of projected vacancies is if 85% of our kids return in general, we expect a lower return for rising fifth graders and a lower return for rising kindergartners based on past experience. A lot of fourth graders go to middle schools that start in fifth grade, and a lot of pre-K kids go to kindergarten at the school because they only go to pre-K for Harlem Link as a one-stop shop. They were initially intent on another school. That's a whole other initiative of us trying to keep those pre-K kids. We know they get a great experience at our school in pre-K. We want to sway them to stay for kindergarten because we're making a seamless process. If the numbers get better than that, then our number of vacancies goes down. So we'll keep an eye on that as well as the month of May goes on. We don't have a long board meeting, but I'm spending a lot of time on enrollment because it is such an important part of our budget and it is the top operational priority for the school. We have been focusing on the infrastructure behind remote learning and getting laptops out, but enrollment isn't going away, and it's back to being a very prominent part of our work in the operations side of the school. So, last thing I'll say is, excuse me, in the area of recruitment, we're doing some new things. Alejandro can give some more context if people want to know about that right now. To add more kids to the waiting list, we did not meet the 1,000 application target that we had set before the lottery. We were kneecapped by the virus, but we were not quite on track regardless. So we expected to continue this push even after the lottery. So in the recruitment season will continue even as we've run the lottery. We're now enrolling new kids. So any comments, questions for me or for Alejandro or anybody else in the team?
Steve, I have a question. You are presuming that families are going to have the financial wherewithal to purchase uniforms. Have you thought about addressing any gap for families that will enroll?
We do that, and Alejandro can give more detail, but we don't advertise this because we don't have any means testing. So if we say, if you express a financial concern, we'll take care of you and give you a free uniform. Because if we do that, then anybody could do that. But if there's any hint of a hardship, if there's any concern, then we'll start with working out a payment plan, and then we'll go down to like a $5 total cost for the starter pack. The retail cost is, I think, close to $100 for the starter pack, and we were selling it last year at $60, and I think we're cutting it down to $40 this year. But we'll do a payment plan, we'll do installations. We want to take something because, again, that does tell us that a parent is serious. So even if it's $5, if it takes time to get that $5, we'll wait for it. But we will tell families we won't let financial hardship stand in the way of enrolling. But we're serious about understanding their need or their interest by looking at what they do with the uniform purchase.
Okay.
Alejandro, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think the other thing that we instituted this year was significant savings for any sibling families that are coming in, where the uniform for the next sibling is 50% off that initial price. So sibling 2, they're paying $20, and if they had a third sibling, it'd be $10, and so on and so forth, to help any families not have to shoulder that big burden if they have multiple students. We already have, I think, 2 or 3 families that have accepted that we feel pretty confident about that have like 3 or 4 kids, and I think that's going to really help push them to the finish line.
Any other questions? Okay, let's get back to our regularly scheduled agenda. I think that covers a dashboard for now. Let's shift to what the Education Committee's been discussing, which is essentially the remote learning plan and the various things we're thinking about but haven't put pen to paper yet to plan for the fall. So I'll say a few words about the remote learning plan, and then let some of the heroes who are on the call from the faculty and administration pipe in and add anything they'd like to share. This team has been working relentlessly to provide all 3 of the goals that we established 2 months ago or 6 weeks ago, which were to take care of our community, to replicate as much of the school day as we can in the remote setting, and to take care, especially the extra supports of vulnerable populations. So what that looks like is teachers setting up basically remote classrooms in their homes, collaborating to create lessons based on the curriculum we already have and using new tools, setting up a schedule of, first of all, morning meetings every day for every classroom, literacy lessons and math lessons now every single day that are live, additional lessons that they have pre-recorded that kids can watch. Now we have specials lessons happening every day, and we also have an after-school program that's gotten up and running in the past few days, and that's happening every day as well. So like I said, heroes, let's hear from you. Aviva, you've been the key architect of our remote instructional plan, and teachers, you've been stepping up and doing amazing work. So I'd like to hear your highlights to share with the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible to see, especially this week, given a lot of students having technology. I mean, yesterday, Miss Riddle in kindergarten had 100% attendance. It was incredible, and that's kindergarten. And that means parents had to help their kid get onto a session live. And so it was awesome to like shout her out for that. And I mean, we're seeing huge increases in attendance in all of our specials, Miss Latanya, Miss Jen, who are on the call. I mean, it's been awesome to see the kids. Like I've joined in and like salsa dancing with Miss Latanya, experiments from Miss Jen's kitchen. It's been really incredible. And the kids are invested in parents, which has been, I think, the biggest amazing piece to this really scary remote time has been our families have just been really excited overall by the learning, the partnerships with teachers. They're not going to want to say goodbye to their teachers from this year. It's going to be, you know, they've just had such close relationships overall. Obviously, there are some one-off cases that have been challenging, and we've been working through them too. But overall, there's been a sense of excitement. Teachers like Ms. Savelli and everybody have been working hours and hours to get really strong content. We've continued with our curriculum. In lower grades, we're still in our pet study. In first grade, like we're in our parks and playground study, and in upper grades, we're continuing on, and we're constantly reviewing and doing small group work and reading groups in lower grades. So it's been definitely like a full jam-packed day, and we're also trying to be cognizant, obviously, of different kids' needs. You know, I just got off the phone last night with a parent who I'm helping her create a visual schedule for her daughter because she's struggling and trying to figure that out. And so we're just trying to provide as many resources as possible remotely, checking in with our families and kids, and it's been really powerful.
Aviva, that's just extraordinary. The 100% figure from, was it yesterday? That's showing me something. I'm too old to have my own children, but I have grandchildren who are third graders, and they're with their parents. And I've been over there when they've gone to school, and compared to what I've seen in a couple of visits to classes at Harlem Link, the other school's not doing the job nearly as well.
We promised high quality. We're giving high quality.
There's still time for them to join the waiting list, Pete, for fourth grade.
One kid's going to ballet tech.
Oh, fantastic.
No, calm down, right?
I mean?
Maureen, as a fourth grade team leader, do you want to give us one highlight?
Oh yeah, it has been it has been a lot of fun. You know, I have a 4-hour round trip commute that's been obviously minimized at this point, but the time is being used differently. And what's great about that is the time is being used differently because I'm able to zoom into our students who really have needs based on either IEPs or those who might be in process, or just some of our low flyers. And we've been doing a lot with SDI in fourth grade and making sure we're meeting the needs. We do one-to-ones with a lot of our students and going over IEP goals. Touching base, it is a comedy act with some of the students and their parents, which makes us laugh, but everybody knows that we're there for them and that this is new territory. Relationships do matter. I just was jotting some stuff down while Aviva was talking. We have amazing partnerships going on. We have parents writing to us saying they are so thankful for Harlem Link because a lot of the other schools are not doing the virtual learning. I know my own daughter and stepson, they do not have virtual learning going on. They literally just get assignment after assignment. And you know, the kids are at the point where they're texting, you know, we love you, we can't wait to see you tomorrow. It feels like a year before I can see you. So, you know, it's fun to get into the home lives of some of these children. Yes, we see some interesting things walking behind some of the children while they're live. But as far as scheduling goes, we started our reading groups and the kids are so excited. Some of us are using different websites and stuff that we're assigning based on where the students are at, and the groups are just going so well. Zoom is amazing with our breakout sessions, and we're able to put our settings on Zoom where nobody is coming in unless they're admitted, which has been very nice. And it's just been a lot of fun. Our morning meetings, responsive classroom, one of the best trainings I've ever had in my 30-year career, and it makes such a difference. And we have so much fun in our morning meetings, from yoga to joke days to spirit days, and it really sets a great stage for learning. But the real big takeaway for me is the parents responding that they are so thankful for Harlem Link. They're so thankful for the virtual learning. It really changed the outlook of parents and students once they were able to see the teachers. And it's just an amazing place to work. I'm very grateful to be here at this point of my career and making a difference with the kids. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Maureen. Anybody else have a question, comment?
Thank you for everything you do.
Oh, thanks. It's great. You know, we have careers that, you know, I pray that our students will find careers that are as rewarding as the careers are. And I need to really shout out Aviva and Dan for leading this team, and Steve and Margaret and everybody else who's on this and who's not on this. You talk about coming together as a team. I don't know any other team that I'd want to be on at this point. And the parents are saying the same things. I just got another text yesterday. I'm so grateful that we're on the Harlem Link team. So to the board members, we are so grateful for you. It literally takes a village to raise these kids educationally, socially, you know, the whole works. And I'm proud to say I'm part of this village.
I'm proud to be part of your village too.
Thanks.
Thank you, Maureen. You've been indispensable. I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. We appreciate all of you.
Okay, any questions about the remote program right now? It is continuing to develop, and we'll report back to the Ed Committee at the next meeting with any updates. And also important to know that, you know, before we move on to the next topic, I want to talk about the planning for the fall. I'm just going to briefly summarize, and Margaret, you guys can jump in if you'd like, and Laura, you too, because you're in the middle of this as well. For another district, no one knows what's going to happen, but we're all making plans, and for different variety of reasons and ways. One scenario is that we go back to school in some modified form in the fall. We've heard of schools planning for alternate days. Half the kids come, so we can spread out desks and do social distancing in classrooms, and the same thing for staff. We've heard about delaying the start of school in the fall further. We've heard about, you know, there are some districts that in states that are opening up right away and just going to have, you know, take the risk. So we're going to follow closely what the state guidelines are. I don't think New York State's going to make us do things that are irresponsible. So we're listening to our authorizer. They've told us to begin developing plans for different scenarios, including for a kind of weird enrollment shape for the fall that includes some kind of blend of remote learning. And I predict that's probably going to have to happen, as frightening as it is. And as exciting as it might be too. There's just so many variables to consider, and there is no blueprint for it. So that's what's happening now. Also, for the current school year, the questions have been bandied about in our committees about, well, what about schools going through renewal? What about our accountability? What about, you know, state test scores? There's no state test this year. What our authorizer has said is they're developing more concrete guidelines for us, but essentially, as long as we document what we're doing, make our best effort to meet our goals, continue to document, keep our attendance, gather data, document, and all those saying document over again are hints that they're going to come back to us by the end of this fiscal year and ask us for evidence of what we've done. So we're working on that as well, student work included. But we haven't gotten anything super concrete from the authorizer about you're mandated to do this, mandated to do that. They are trusting that we're doing the best we can. And that may come. They may say next week, okay, it's the governor is now lifting. If he does do this, for the rest of the year, everyone's got to be remote. So now you have to do X, Y, and Z, which you may not have been doing before. So we're getting prepared to shift if we have to, but we're also preparing to defend the work we're doing because we think it's very strong. So then this planning for the fall, I mentioned those scenarios. Any comments, especially from you, Laura, anything, insight you want to share from the DOE before we move on?
Yeah, no, I would echo what Steve's saying. I mean, I think there are a lot of conversations about what the back to school, for starting with summer school, what that will look like, and then moving back into the fall. A lot of conversations just about how are they going to clean the schools? Are they going to be able to test everyone before they go into the school? My gut is telling me something, I think to echo what Steve said, is that it'll be a blended model where there'll be some in-person, but also some remote learning continuing. But, you know, as soon as I have any updates or maybe a little bit more of a solid idea, I'll let you guys know. But it's a huge issue. Even again with summer school, you know, we just came out with the grading policy this week, and so looking at summer school, what will that be? And I think that will probably give us some inkling as to what the fall will look like.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a
Unless
question.
Go ahead, Marie.
What's the average class size typically, like on a normal day?
It's in the 20s. So we have kindergarten and pre-K that are this year as small as 18. But in the fall, the plan is every class between 24 and 28, pre-K 18. And the rooms are about 550 square feet. So I haven't done the math, but to get 6 feet between each child, they've got to be a lot smaller than that.
Thank you.
Especially all the paras we have. We have some classes with 3 paraprofessionals, 2 teachers, and then a push-in service provider. You know, you're looking at 35 people in a room. So, you know, we have to do some real gymnastics to be safe. Okay, let's move on to advancement, which I had not neglected to put in the agenda. But before I give the floor over to Josh for a quick update, answer Pete's question, and share any other information, I'll have to make a quick late-breaking announcement. I just learned this morning we got our first college acceptance for the current seniors who are alums. And that is, we heard from Karamoko Diaby, who got into Buffalo and College of Staten Island and is choosing the College of Staten Island because he loves me and I came from Staten Island. No, I'm just kidding. He chose because it's closer to home in this difficult time. My niece is enrolled there, so maybe they'll cross paths next year. Socially distant.
Was that a 4-year school or 2-year school?
That's a 4-year school.
Oh, great.
Part of the CUNY system. Okay, Josh, take it away. Tell us what you got. What's that?
I said if they need any CUNY tips, I'm here.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Hey everyone, advancement is just rolling along. A lot of the big things going on right now is kind of keeping our goals with all the turbulence kind of going on. As far as just an update going on with the fundraiser, it's kind of steadied out since the launch of it. We are sitting at, I'm just going to take a quick look at it. We're at 23,776, which equals about 95 laptops right there. We are also getting checks sent to the school and through PayPal. I don't know all those numbers just yet, but as far as stuff directly in there, it leads up to about that. I am going to drop a link into the chat, and I would like to encourage anyone, if you have friends or other people that you can reach out to, share it on social media. Any little bit really does go a long way. We're still reaching out. We're finding other ways to reach out to other people with that, but that's currently where the fundraiser itself is sitting. We also applied to a grant for emergency COVID response. Unfortunately, we didn't get it, but one of the good things about it was that doing that whole process and making it so fast and streamlined means that we now have the language to apply to other grants. So we're reviewing some of the other grant opportunities that we have. Certain grant makers that we had flagged before are doing COVID specific, like quick turnaround stuff right now. So we're trying to see what's the best for that. So look forward to other updates on there. We're gonna try to apply to more grants and see if we can get more unique funding. especially since the match is going to be reliant on that. I think the match will be understanding of where we are. That said, if we do include the donation we got at the beginning of the year from the West Side Story filming at the school, we actually have made with this fundraiser above $75,000 in unique new donations. So that's really, really good. That does put us in the clear. Like it did with the budgeting, a lot of our pre-planning work has kind of paid off a lot when it comes to where we are with this current crisis. Some of the other stuff that Advancement has been doing has been getting, oh, I only sent the link to Steve, so I apologize about that. There it is. That's the link to the fundraiser. We've had some visitors scheduled for the school. Last week we had Alelia Bundles, who great granddaughter of CJ Walker. It was great presentation. She answered questions from the kids. We made a recording of it. Hopefully we can make clips of it available soon. Still working on the details of that in regards to like permissions and stuff like that, but we're working on it. And then next week we have another visitor coming in on Thursday, Elizabeth Winthrop. That is the author of The Castle in the Attic and Battle for the Castle. That's her most famous books, and she'll be discussing the Red Hot Ratoons and doing a slideshow and doing another presentation to the kids. That one's going to be more focused towards 2nd grade, whereas Lilia was more focused towards 5th grade. But everyone's going to be invited. It'll be in the DAG if you're a teacher or someone else here who wants to be involved. Email me, let me know. I'll keep you on the invite, and it'll be an open invite for everyone to show up. That's the major stuff going on in Advancement. I want to know if anyone has any questions about that.
I just want to acknowledge the work that Josh and Dan did to pull off last Friday, along with our grade teachers, and 4th grade joined us as well. I know Alelia is sending books up. She also said at some point if you wanted to do a viewing of the YouTube biography, she'd be happy to do some follow-up as well. But I had a Columbia thing with Alelia that Tuesday evening, and we both concurred that the questions from our Harlem Link students were far more interesting, and in some cases more sophisticated than what we had heard from the Columbia graduates. So
thank you. And also a shout out to Letitia Gregg. She hosted the whole meeting, and I know that she was bouncing a lot of stuff. This next week, Sandy Hoytsma will be hosting for Elizabeth, and me and Dan will be running background stuff. But yeah. Any other last things about Advancement?
Now, Ken, thank you for securing Leah. That was amazing. And Pete, thank you for bringing in Elizabeth Winthrop. It's going to be cool next week too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Ken.
I want to thank you from Michael Bass in 4th grade, who was busting and could not focus until that Zoom meeting began with Miss Bundles. He was so excited.
That's great. Love to hear that.
He was the first one to say something on the call from the students. He took the lead.
Oh, yes.
And he looked like he's always put together and just professional and focused all the time on the call.
Yeah, that's how he looks every day on Zoom.
Right.
He's so funny.
Okay, that's all for business for our meeting. Is there anything else anybody wants to ask about? Well, Tanya, you want to share something? What you got? You're on mute. All right, got you. You're still on mute. You're on mute, yes. All right.
So as far as graduation for 5th grade, how do you see some closure for them as far as saying goodbye to 5th grade and making that transition into middle school? Like, do we have anything planned for them remotely?
The answer is not yet, but we're going to put a lot of thought into it. It's really scary to think about this. And it's heartbreaking for our fifth graders, for high school seniors, for eighth grade, all across the country. Assuming school is closed the rest of the year, we'll do something very powerful virtually.
Thank you.
And that also raises another issue, which is, how are we going to commemorate and mark all of this? Because this is an extraordinary time we're all living through, and we don't want to just race through it. We want to stop and reflect. I mentioned at the staff meeting that we've had staff members and families lose people very close to them. So Margaret and I have been talking about some kind of memorial or a service after this is all over, so we can stop and really reflect on what we've all been through together. It's not just about the rituals we normally go through, but it's about the disruption and hardship we've all been through. So we're thinking along those lines. We have no concrete plans yet because we don't know what timelines look like yet. But as things take shape, we'll do our customary reflective, team coordinated planning around a way to support the whole community.
Cool. Steve, what's nominally the last day of school?
June 23rd, around there.
As usual.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks again to everybody.
Thank you.
Day. Morning meetings are starting in a few minutes. And
go get them, guys.
Committees will be
Congratulations for everything you've done. Thank you.
Yeah, stay safe, everyone.
Yep.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.